now know more about the LEOS and the underlying standard that it supports, but maybe we can speak a bit about the future, no? And for that we have here Fotis Fitsilis. He's the head of the research department of the Hellenic Parliament and has been a researcher for a long time. So we have a Slido question from him, which is an open question asking about suggestions for smart functionalities that could be part of the lawmaking process. So again, to come with some ideas, and Fotis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you for working also to the CEMIC team for this session together. It's an extraordinary one and potentially dealing with a matter that will really transform not only the way we legislate, but also the way we do policy, the way we govern, the way we live. It's important. Let's check out what we are going to talk about in the next 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to talk about the concept of smart functionalities. So don't be afraid, I will explain what we understand under this. There is an underlying study, and this is what I'm going to present. So this is, we're now at roughly 50% of its objective. So I hope I won't disappoint you, and possibly you will need to invite me again next year to cover them. Don't forget about me next week. Well, it's a study, so it has to have some sort of methodology. I will talk about this. Criticism is always welcome here. There are results. This is why I'm here, and I will present some that we think are fairly interesting to be discussed and built upon. And of course, the next steps, since the study has still 4 months to go. Okay, this is about artificial intelligence, obviously. And we speak about smart functionality. So what's the game here? The idea is, so this is not a study that was conceived to be independent from anything else. So this was a study that built upon a former one conducted by Monica and Fabio Vitali. And it was about how the original study that ended a year ago was about were the first thoughts on how to bring LEOS or EDIT. EDIT is the version of LEOS that's used within the Commission, how we could get a step further using advanced technologies, artificial intelligence. And now we are a year after this, and this change is, as a matter of fact, a lot has changed, and I just needs to think about GPT, for instance, and the tremendous developments around a lot of open source large language models and generative AI, different sorts of AI. So all this is advanced simultaneously. So we didn't probably use the words artificial intelligence here again, because we wanted to underline that we want to add some functionality, so add value functionalities through AI, functionalities to LEOS. What it has outlined. So we have a tool. I'm not talking in general about some wild software. We're talking here more of add-ons, if you wish, or tools that can cooperate through interoperability features, while using LEOS as a basic main platform of collaborative drafting, or extending it to other features beyond drafting, policy making, for instance. So smart functionalities are add-ons to LEOS that extend, augment its uses around the full policy cycle that, already presented. So the study runs since June. It's owned by the Secretariat General, and the conducting authority was the DIGIT, Director General. It's implemented by the team I have the honor to lead, the Hellenic OCR team, which is a global initiative, roughly 70 members, 4 continents, 15 countries, working on the advancement of parliaments, of understanding parliaments and the governance in general. There are several stakeholders, it has been outlined. I don't need to talk on this further. And the objectives, once more, is to identify what are these smart functionalities at all. Can they be categorized? Original work has been already conducted by Monica. How can we assess their business value? It's interesting to have this as an idea. So does this add value to business cases or not? And then, are they implementable in a reasonable way, or do you need more money that does not come out after all? And at the end, all love roadmaps to possible to come up with a reasonable guide to reach our goals. So let's talk about methodology very briefly. There was a reference study, so we didn't start from scratch. Already there have been identified a set of functionalities, 33 of them to be very specific, across different categories. We also run a literature and technology review, obviously, but above all, we collected empirical data, field data. We run questionnaires, interviews. We had a technical workshop with people that developed LEOS, and a reflection group 3 weeks ago in Brussels. Several stakeholders of the European Commission commenting on our findings and expanding our visions and thoughts. So I spoke about 33 smart functionalities. We added one more. We added automatic drafting through LLMs for obvious reasons. So we run 11 interviews, structured ones with very specific agenda. As a matter of fact, we have been asked about, and we have made also a lot of thoughts regarding representability of results. This is an obvious thought of anyone, but this is not about having a representative sample of the whole commission. That would be impossible. So this is in principle an expert survey. An expert survey is for this purpose useful because you don't need to have it representative. You just need to have the right people there. And we think our collection of experts is a proper one in order to be able to draw reasonable and useful conclusions. So analysis is ongoing, and let's get to the chase. Let's see what we have found out so far. So one very simple analytic, let's say, feature and result is the distribution of picks. So we asked 11 people, and we have a 34 item long questionnaire. So what is the distribution of the picks, of the items that were chosen by the experts? For 2 out of 34, nobody has chosen. I will tell who they are. So interesting, obviously, are the top picks and the low picks, the ones that nobody's interested in. Why? And all obviously the topics, because we need to see why are people interested in this. And the reason we need to have such a to interpret or let's say do this selection is purely out of resource limitation. So if you're going to somehow have a decision on implementation, so you cannot implement all 34. Of course you can if you have unlimited resources, but apparently there are not so much money out there. So you need to have a pick. And this is an indication, I give you that, of which solutions or smart functionalities might be interested to start with. There is some more. We did not only ask people to select their topics from a set, an already predefined list of functionalities. That would be too easy and obviously biased, because we would restrict the choices of the experts. So we asked them through this structured procedure also to identify new functionalities. And what they did is, of course, that's what human intellect is very interesting. So they come up with new ideas constantly. People came up with 44 new functionalities. So we did some, of course, cross-checking and see if there are doubles and so. Of course, they are. So from 44, there were several that are common. So we managed to reduce this to 27. So we had 34 plus 27. So we're now presented, we have in our hands 61 smart functionalities. So currently, I'll try to develop my thoughts here. Of course, if I'm starting having these kind of discussions here, we might come up with additional 10 or 20 or 30. So at the end, we would have hundreds of smart functionalities. Is this a viable approach, let's say, towards indicating most needed ones or the most desirable ones? I think not. And I will explain why. At some point, there needs to be a bottom line. So where we start developing smart functionalities further. And I think with 60 smart functionalities, this limit has been already reached. So because the next, now I'm talking about the next step in the study, is start analyzing these 60 functionalities. So at some point, I repeat, we need to prioritize, and possibly this step has already is already there. Currently, allow me to highlight a few smart functionalities because we need to know what we're talking about. So some really interesting ones were smart templates. Smart templates, I mean, I haven't elaborated there purely for sake of economy of space, in the sense of using artificial intelligence to guide, to populate or pre-populate a template so that drafting is becoming more efficient, time efficient, perhaps also energy and cost efficient if the result is easier to be implemented, for instance. Another one is avoid common errors. So people use Word all the time, and sometimes it indicates that this is a possible mistake, spelling mistake. This could be something for use. I know that at some level it's implemented, but people want more. Also check perhaps the language or the drafting customs between DGs might be different. Adjust it maybe to a common template. Then automatic secondary text generation. So imagine you have the full draft, you need to produce bullet points, press releases, summaries, e-briefing. We do this all the time. And have it like that, it might be really useful for the people that we ask. And so on, keeping track of the origin of data. That's an interesting one. A lot of people express positively about having sort of watermarking, but maybe that's not the proper terminology. One needs to know, maybe needs to know where a certain passage came from. Is it GPT generated? Or is it generated from a different DG? Or is it some consolidated version that it cannot be tracked back to to its origins? Or it's purely human generated? Some of these cannot be implemented. I'm not talking here about implementability yet. This is still to be evaluated. The technology evaluation has not happened yet. So we're still trying to figure out what kind of functionalities, how to prioritize them. And then there's the categories. So there has been original work, and we try to discuss, or we intensively discuss internally, the original categories make sense, or could we possibly refine them somehow? I'm not going to get there in detail, apart from the point that the most interesting one for our experts were the legal assistance, whatever that means to us. We obviously have to define this closer. The policy dimension, so also here we're outside the pure drafting issues, and the verification. So verify the content somebody has written, or the language if it's according to rules, grammar rules and drafting rules and so on. So one of the first results was a small refinement of categories. So we, let me here, is there a laser? No, there's no laser pointer view. Well, it's very slight. Okay, the original study, there has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 categories. We call it alpha categorization. And when we arrived in the scene, the people from Digit had already sort of refined it, and they came up with a beta version, which is slightly different, but not completely apart. So what they did is they put together the verification categories into a more consolidated verification category, and they put together the legal assistance and also a legal, which is quite basic. So we analyzed the opinions of our experts through, as I said, interviews and questionnaires, and we proposed, this is still a proposal, but we think that it's quite solid, that we should better keep what has been what is already there, so the beta, with a slight deviation of putting the visualization items or smart functionalities within the policy dimensions, because usually, as they explained, visualization can be used decisively in policy making, in consultation and so on. So we thought, maybe not to have it completely different as an own category, maybe to put it in policy dimension. Otherwise, it seemed to us, we're a team, that this is completely legit, and let's follow this up. So we have a few minutes more, and kindly don't get distracted or afraid. I'm not going to discuss the full table. There's a follow-up, say, to this presentation or to this part of the study, and the next step goes towards figuring out whether these functionalities are actually useful, implementable, and how useful. And so we need to assess certain attributes. What kind of attributes might that be? So we have talked a lot, and we have decided to evaluate for the full set, or at least for the priority picks, 5 such attributes. Here we define that for the categories, but obviously you need to define that for each functionality in order for it to be fully assessed. So we speak about user experience, about business value, about technology. So eventually we need to speak about technology, about data, and about performance of functionality itself. Let's talk about a few of them and then move on. So for the business value, here we speak about the verification. So since we speak about verifying something that we already did as human subjects, better if something is suggested, it better be good. It better be a good suggestion. So now we know that sometimes if the technology is LLMs, for instance, we know that some outputs might be imperfect. So we need to define. So what is useful? Is 75% of the cases useful? 80%? How should this be represented when presented to the subject, to the drafter? Another thing, as said, is visualizations. Gets to be increasingly important in our society. We've been confronted by policymakers. I have been in the level of drafting. I have drafted laws. So they want from drafters visualization of text. This is good this speeds up the policy-making process, makes laws understandable to third parties and to society, to citizens, stakeholders, and so on. But slowly, I mean, we have possibly understood that the amount of energy and the amount of maybe ingenuity that a certain organization can offer in terms of visualizations is limited. So our original thoughts is, why not open not only for visualizations, but the whole process, why not open it to third parties? Universities, private sector, why not? Or simple volunteers to offer third-party tools, visualize or to conduct other types of operations on our legal text. This is something that, in our opinion, needs to be thought about. Finally, and I'm going to stop here before closing the presentation. This is really the time that everybody speaks on generative AI, large language models, and so on. Above others, one of the top topics we have been confronted with is trust, these models, security, safety, cyber concerns in general. And we have been asked, I mean, I work in a parliament and have been asked from parliaments, many. So how can we build this? Is it safe to use, let's say, Azure cloud, or is it safe to have them, can I use open source? Is it as good as the commercial one? Can I have it in my basement? Do I use enterprise cloud? So these are valid concerns that cannot be answered per se for each organization. I mean, the Commission is a different organization compared to the smaller parliament, let's say, in Southeastern Europe. So eventually, the solution might be different. This has to be taken into account when designing, and only designing, also assessing a smart functionality. That's it. By the way, and we are having set of deliverables already in place. We have to consult with Digit if this is possible to be circulated upon demand. But if you are not really, if you cannot wait, it might be facilitated. But I would advise to wait a couple of months more, maybe till the beginning of the year, to have the final study, which we intend to publish and to make it open. Thank you.